Yeah, there is a panda. He destroyed everything in the office.
Oh, I love this one. Welcome to Mosaic of China, a podcast about people who are making their mark in China. I'm your host, Oscar Fuchs. So we've reached episode 10 today. Double Figures deserves a celebration, and I've decided that this means taking a very short break. It's not the end of the season by any means. I'll be back with the next batch of episodes 11 to 20 before you know it. But I just wanted to avoid information overload for those of you who are listening to this in real time, and to allow those who aren't to have a chance to catch up. This week's episode is with Laurie Lee. As you'll hear us mention at the very start of our conversation, Laurie is the general manager of Yongfoo Elite, which is a private members club here in Shanghai. But more than that, it houses a Michelin 2-star restaurant, it has been voted the best music venue in Shanghai by Time Out, and it's something of a secret calling card of Shanghai. I mention secret because it's still a place that's shrouded in a little mystery. They don't splash a lot of things about it online. I lived around the corner from it for about 18 months before I even heard about it, and in fact the name of their semi-public bar is Keep It Quiet. So I'm very grateful to Laurie for breaking her own rules in this interview. This means it's another good excuse for you to check out the photos that accompany the podcast on social media. In this episode, you'll see the antique wine glass that Laurie brought to the interview. You'll see photos of the club, which Laurie and her team kindly shared with me, and many other images that are also relevant to our conversation. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Mosaic of China, and for WeChat, please add me on s01e10 and I'll add you to the group. As well as spilling the beans on the club itself, Laurie and I talk about Shanghai's status as one of the world centres of style and fashion, and she walks us through the changing interpretation of what luxury means in China, particularly over the last 20 years. You may think you have an idea about how Chinese people view luxury, but like everything else in China, these trends have a habit of changing over a few years what might take an entire generation elsewhere. So I hope that this interview helps to keep you updated on the latest interpretation. And a final quick heads up, you'll notice immediately that there were sound issues in the studio when we did this recording. Very sorry about that. I hope you'll still enjoy what Laurie had to say. I'm here with Laurie Lee, and Laurie, you are the general manager of Yongfoo Elite, which is a private club here in Shanghai. Well, I want to go into your experiences there, but before we do, the first question I'd like to ask is, what is the object that you have brought today?
That is an ancient wine glass in China. It's above 1,000 years ago. Before, in ancient China, it's the wine and the food also related to the ceremony. So it's the dinner is related to the communication to the god. It's all the food ceremony is related to communication. So communication to the god. So that's many parts. It's very prestige. So and you can from the shape feel it's because it's very high. So it's kind of full of the feeling of how you respect the god. So in China, the god, in ancient China, the god is the nature. Yeah.
And tell me, what is it made of, and which part of China does it come from? Do you know the details?
That is the Han Dynasty white glass. So the color is black, and there's 8 goddess craft in this ceramic. So why it's black and white, it's also a very special color in that time, because at that time white and black is very serious color. Not everyone can use it. So this only for the special ceremony to the god or in temple to some very important statement. You can use white and black. So that's the color makes you feel very gorgeous. Yeah.
And what does this symbolize for you in terms of what you're doing now in China?
Oh, because I'm do the hospitality and F&B industry, so I want to introduce much more culture, lifestyle behind that. So I want to introduce Chinese traditional food culture and lifestyle to international and to the modern society. What is the core value of that?
Well, let's go straight into that then. So, why don't you tell us about what the club actually is?
Oh, okay. Our club is built in 1930s. It used to be a private doctor's home, and after 1949, this house belongs to the government and it become different countries' consulate. And the last consulate is British consulate during the 1980s until 2001. And then after that, we took over the place and start renovating for 3 years. And so the Yongfoo Club, we opened in 2004 as a private membership club.
And what were the challenges of renovating a building like that?
It's a very old building at that time, and the house actually collapsed a little bit. So that's why British consulate, they don't want to pay money to renovate it, and then they move out. So the house actually have very big problem, and we put the stainless steel to make the structure again. So almost rebuild the whole house, but use the old material to make it look still old. But actually, everything is our new building. Yeah.
Wow, and 3 years, it's such a long time. Like, what was it that took so long?
Because the owner and designer of Yongfoo Elite, Mr. Wang, he's a very artistic designer. So he wants to achieve his own dream of his life in this project. He used to be very good fashion designer in 1980s. He's the first generation of fashion designer in China. So he's famous to combine East and West, all the design and cultural elements into a project. So he put all his life experience and energy to this project, and failed thousands of times, and with a lot of investments. So that's why the project lasted 3 years.
And when did you personally get involved?
I met Mr. Wang in 2005 and joined the company the same year. I used to be a journalist, and I write articles for culture, and I'm a columnist also, write lifestyle and also book review and movie, theater, all kinds of things. And then I took an interview with Jing Xin, which is a contemporary dancer. So Jing Xin introduced me to Mr. Wang after our interview in 3 days. So that's very, accidental meeting for us.
Great. And yeah, Jing Xin is a very famous personality. I've heard a lot about her.
Oh, yeah. I think she's a legend.
Yes. So you mentioned that you had a lot of different, artistic pursuits. You were a writer, you were a columnist. Is that what drew you to this kind of creative project?
I think the beauty in some way is related to all kinds of field. So no matter it is literature, poetry, or design or art. So I just think Yongfoo Elite is a lifestyle present for beauty. So that's why I indulge in it so much, as I think I can explore much more ways of beauty and how to represent to more people.
Right, because what I know about the club is that it is very much about the creative side. It's not so much about you have to have this much money, you have to be a businessman. I sense that the focus on bringing creative people together.
We could do a closed membership club in 2004. At that time, we have two choices. One is we totally closed, only for members. For that, very business elite people pay high membership fee. And the other choice is open to more people. And then at that time, we did have a decision is to open to more people. The reason is Mr. Wang, he wants to share his art piece to more people. So that's why at 2004, when we opened, we decided half is membership, half open to the public. It's almost like a private museum. It's including thousands of antique collection and also with fashion language elements to represent. And we want to show people the different spiritual statement. So we gathered many underground musicians and also video artists, sound artists, and dancers, all kinds of contemporary art way to mix together to present the different experience. So that's so many singers, musicians. So this kind of cross public and private and the interactive between performers and audience is very intimate. I think that's very unique experience. I think it's all about Shanghai because many people said, Yongfoo Elite is a kind of name card of Shanghai. It's related to Shanghai city culture. I think Shanghai is a city combined with the old and the new, and east and the west. In Shanghai, we have very interesting word. It's called 时髦. 时髦 is not a fashion. It's not a style. It's a word between fashion and style. So the style is, much more like classic, or you can say the style is much more stable, fixed. And fashion is always changed. It's always, very flexible. But 时髦, actually, it is the core spirit, one of the core spirit of Shanghai city culture.
And is that your definition of elite? Because of course your title is Yongfoo Elite, mm-hmm. And to me, when I think of what the elite want, you think of 100 bottles of champagne, mm-hmm. You have the best buildings, you have the most expensive cars, mm-hmm. But it's something more, right?
Of course, if elite only related to the money, it's for us it's not enough. For us, the business elite and the intellectual elite should be combined together, become one. So for us, the elite means you are always evolved with this city. You are always in. So that's not related to your physical statement. It's much more related to your spiritual statement.
So what has changed then? When you talk about Shema, when you talk about the tastes, when you talk about the intellectuals of Shanghai, how have things changed in the last 15 years?
In the first period during 2000 to 2010, it's much more about how you show off what you have. It's much about watch, wine, sugar, fashion. So Chinese people want to learn so much taste so they can present them in some way. So at that time, the trendy is like that, all the physical things. And after the 2008, which is the Olympic Games in Beijing, and 2010 is the Expo in Shanghai, I think more people, they are realized they want to find something inside not rely on the physical part. So that's what at that time the Chinese new elite, they are more focused on the philosophy, history. So at that time, our club also have a lot of programs about how to make tea ceremony, how to make incense ceremony, or the philosophy program, how to teach the new elite to find themselves by inside. And then after, I think 2015, the third generation come, and they are younger. They are after 1985, and they are more like the individual experience. They are more focused on the creative contents, like music, contemporary art, and how to say this individual traveling. So I think we are evident the three kind of different generation. What's their need change, also the society value change.
That's fascinating, and I'm sure it's probably similar to anywhere else where you've had different definitions of what luxury means.
Yes.
So
now the luxuries identify is much more back to the nature, like family and close friends and intimate moments. I think the luxuries change a lot in China.
You mentioned that you've had these changes, the three phases. When you look back in your last 15 years, which has been the hardest phase? Have you had a really challenging period?
In 2007, there is a financial crisis and influenced the international and Asia and Hong Kong. And 70% of customers, they just vanished in 2007. Yeah, at that time, our GM, which is a very brave lady, lead our marketing people go to the local company one after one. So like the big company like Huawei, Liantong, Baogang, all the Chinese company after their meeting become our new customers. So we took 1 year to struggle in this financial crisis, and after 1 year, 70% of the customers become to Chinese people.
Interesting. And how does that compare with today?
Now we are still 60 to 70% is Chinese people, but they become much younger. Half of our customers they was born after 1980s. 20% of them was born after 1990s.
And to change direction completely, what have been the interesting guests that have come to the club? I know you can't tell me all their secrets, but do you remember a few special guests who have come to the club?
Yeah, we have a very special guest, which is Karl Lagerfeld. Yeah, when he was a director of Chanel, he bring 200 guests from all over the world have a sit-down dinner at our club, and that is a gorgeous dinner. And which I remembered is after all the guests leave, Karl, he wandered in our garden alone at 1 a.m. and he's like to talking to himself and or talking to the nature. So that's a very magic moment in my memory. One of my icon is Paul Smith, and I like his design and the spirit so much. And he arrived at 7 o'clock, and having the traditional Shanghai cuisine and dim sum, and then wandered at garden and see the Peking opera, which also I prepared for him. So I think that's also a very unique moment for the garden and the guest.
Well, I'm sure you have many stories, but I won't get you to record them today.
Okay.
You can tell me after.
Okay. thousands of.
Yes. Well, thanks again, and let's move on to the second part.
Okay.
So, question number 1. What is your favorite China-related fact?
I like the stone inscription in the tourist site because it's very unique sightseeing only in China. You can see so many stones and there's have some words or some drawing on the stone. And because it's like every dynasty, the people see the same view, same mountain, same lake, but they have different feeling. So all of them, they put their feeling on the wall, on the stone. So generation by generation, you can tell the different people's feeling because the same view, but all the people, they have their individual opinion of that.
Do you have a favorite word or phrase in Chinese?
Oh, as I mentioned, I like 时髦. 时髦, actually, the word is come from Han Dynasty. Yeah, the meaning is between style and fashion. It's one meaning is all about outstanding people in Han Dynasty. The original meaning is outstanding people. The next meaning is about the people who is in the society. So I like this word because it's really, city feeling like Shanghai.
What's your favorite destination within China?
I like the small city, small town we call the 5线城市. So when you go to very far place or like this small town, you feel it's so interesting, crazy, and people have their own local culture.
And it's funny because the cities are becoming more generic, but it's the small towns outside the cities that you feel the real different flavor, right?
Yeah, it's all about like adventure, in different world culture.
And if I was to press you and for you to choose just one, is there one that jumps to mind that's your favorite?
My latest visiting is a small town beside the lake in Guangxi, and that the people, they don't speak Mandarin. They speak the local language I can't understand, but they have beautiful lake, beautiful tree, and I communicate with them, not use language. We communicate with other ways.
If you left China, what would you miss the most and what would you miss the least?
I miss the Chinese food and the atmosphere when you have Chinese food. It's all about friends gathering and very everything mixed up, and I have a Chinese stomach.
So it's not actually so much about the food; it's about the whole ritual around the food.
Yes.
And if anything, what would you miss the least?
When I was in US or Europe, I don't miss the takeaway food. Even that is so convenient in China, we can order like 2 a.m. with all kinds of 外卖. But when I was abroad, I don't miss that. I think because you can make it by yourself also, and that's not so necessary, and also destroy the environment so much.
Is there anything that still surprises you about life in China?
I every day I was surprised by people's dynamic. Especially the Chinese people, their ability to absorb the information, and they change the information and they use the information. I'm surprised by the people, the ability to use the information.
What is your favorite place to eat, drink, or hang out?
My favorite place is we call the David Lynch's Mala Town.
All right.
Yeah, it's a Mala Town can open very late until the morning, and all the atmosphere is really underground. It's like David Lynch's movie. All the decoration, the people inside, and all the music played there is really, unusual from the daily life.
Okay, I'm going. What is the best or worst recent purchase you have made in China?
I can't remember because I tell myself not to purchase a lot. And if I could, I wish I could less purchase or purchase much more environmental friendly things.
But maybe this is what you were talking about, how, maybe 10 years ago you were interested in buying things, but now what's the reason, right?
Yeah.
What's your favorite WeChat sticker?
Yeah, there is a panda. He destroyed everything in the office.
Oh, I love this one. What is your go-to song to sing at KTV?
I think because sometimes I go with a Chinese friend, sometimes go with a Western friend. I have to pick up a song which both people can understand. So I will pick up Yesterday Once More. So every day, everyone can sing together. And it used to be a very sad song, but when 10 people sing together, it will be very joyful.
That's good. Okay, and the last question. What other China-related media or information sources do you rely on?
My personal way is go abroad often if you have this ability. The other way is we have very good documentary movie or short movie about the Chinese society. So that's another way to know China.
Well said. Thank you, Laurie. Well, the final question that I have to ask you is, if I was to ask you for the recommendation of anyone else who you know in China, who would you recommend that I speak to next?
I will think of one of my girlfriend called Wang Fang first. She's an architecture, and her company is in charge of many important projects in the main city. And I think she's evidence for Chinese civilization and urbanization process. So it's related to every people, and she can give us a view from architecture, what the city grew up.
Oh, she sounds amazing. Well, thanks so much. I look forward to meeting her.
Yeah.
And Laurie, thank you for your time today. It was such a pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Well, thank you again to Laurie. You can hear that I tried my best to winkle out some gossip from her. We did talk off mic after the interview, and she confirmed some of the rumours that I'd heard about Hollywood types and whatnot at the club. But otherwise, she remained mostly tight-lipped. She did share a few extra images of some of the elaborate events and parties at the venue, so I've posted these online. But then, what kind of host would she be if she talked publicly about the rest? I hope you enjoyed her definition about the 3 stages of luxury, and indeed the 4th stage now, where going back to nature and spending intimate time with close friends and family is the new luxury. A quick amen to that. Maybe this is partly what inspired me to take a little time off, and not just the stack of interviews that are piling up on my hard disk waiting to be edited. A quick extra comment on the answer that Laurie gave to the question about what she would miss if she left China, which she said was the atmosphere around eating Chinese food. This was an interesting point actually, because in China it's very common, or at least it's a special thing to do, for groups of family and friends to enjoy a private dining area, where you can still be raucous if you want, but you do so in a more closed and intimate setting. And I think the same is the case for Korea and Japan also. But in the West, there's much more of a culture of enjoying open dining. I'm thinking of the Italian piazza, where being around other people in public is much more part of the enjoyment of dining out. And of course all of that is a gross generalization. There are plenty of exceptions on both sides. But I think it's true that while you can find great Chinese food all across the world, it's not as easy to replicate that kind of atmosphere. So, onto the images. This week I've posted the Chinese word, 时髦. That's the word that describes something between fashion and style. I've posted a photo of the last place in the countryside that Laurie had been to. It's Daxing County in Guangxi Province. The word she used to describe places like this is 五线城市. This means fifth-tier cities. If you're anything like me, you'll have no idea about how cities are classified in your country or how big they are or how they compare with each other. But here in China, there is this unofficial list of cities where they're classified from Tier 1 all the way down to Tier 5. Just search online for the Chinese city tier system and you can find out a whole bunch more. As well as the photos of the grounds of Yongfoo Elite, there's also a photo of the creator, Mr. Wang, and also of Jin Xing, the lady who originally introduced Laurie to Mr. Wang. We mentioned in our discussion that Jin Xing is something of a legend in China. This is true, she is a fascinating character in her own right. She started her career in the Chinese military, then she had gender reassignment surgery in the 90s, and ultimately went on to have a very successful career in dance and as a TV personality. And her name Jin Xing means Venus. And finally, there's Laurie's favourite WeChat sticker, which was the panda destroying the office. This is part of a series. I've got a nice stash of angry panda WeChat stickers, so just make me angry on WeChat and I'll send them to you, no doubt. Mosaic of China is me, Oscar Fuchs. Editing is by Milo De Prieto, artwork by Danny Newell, and China technical support from Alston Gong. If you've made it here to the end of episode 10 and you haven't yet reached out to me, then please use this as a nudge to get in touch and say hello. I would love to hear from you, and I'll be back with episode 11 very soon.